Okay?
Are you ready, Mr. Chairman, to start the stream?
Okay. Hello. Okay. Opening the meeting for the September 13th, 2021 meeting for the Painesville Township Zoning Commission. Welcome, and please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Okay, Ted,
Here.
Daryl,
Here.
John,
Here.
Bailey, and Amy. Here.
Surprised me there, Rachel, usually last, and I'm thinking, oh, wow. Okay. Did we get, Rachel or Harley, did we get any inquiries from the public?
I have not. I have not, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so I'll call the regular meeting to order. Where the next is on the minutes that was given to us for the August 9, 2021 meeting. There was one amendment to it, and Rachel got that, and she sent them back to us amended. We had a right date on it now, but and it's fine, no big deal. So the minutes that were sent to you the second time are the amended minutes, is what we're looking at for today. So if anybody has any other corrections? If there isn't any,
I had three, but as I said before, my wife left my briefcase at home, so I don't remember what they are. That's why I write things down. And
so you, we want to do that. Rachel, do you have the minutes? If we give it to Daryl, have him take a look quickly. Do you have answer at that?
yeah, see that? This should be July. There's another one down here.
Oh.
This should be July.
Right. So the minutes should say July, right here, this should say July 12th.
Yeah.
No, it's August, it's
No,
right.
it's July.
That's all right.
No, it'd be July 9th.
Oh,
And this should be July 9th.
Oh, okay.
Can't do August yet because
Because I
you
was
just
thinking-
finished it. You're backwards from it.
Oh, no, this is August, this is the meeting minutes from August.
And it has to be
And then we
Then you got-
approved at the August meeting,
Okay.
the July.
just looked
Correct.
strange.
Am I-
Well, what I was getting was totally different. Anyways. And I think you got the other one, just a little one. I don't think it's that big a deal.
Okay,
As long as you get the major ones, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
all right. Any other corrections to the minutes? Hearing no corrections, entertain a motion for approval of the minutes as amended.
So moved.
Daryl, second by John.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Okay, Daryl,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Bailey, and Sherman.
Yes. Okay, we have no public hearings. Let's go right, we have a site plan architecture review for Giant Eagle at 1201 Mentor Avenue. Harley has provided us with the drawings and what Giant Eagle is looking to do. And I will let Harley make her presentation to us regarding this review.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only change that Giant Eagle is currently undertaking on the exterior of the building is adding that additional entry exit to the front of the building. They're not going to be doing any other changes to the facade. So what the zoning commission will be looking at is just the addition to the door. In terms of scope of work, really going through this process is just a formality.
So all we're looking at, Harley, is just the doors themselves, that's it, correct?
Yes, yes, the door and the awning. No,
they doing, moving the bank down?
They're
Is it-
doing, some pretty extensive
Yeah, this-
interior renovations. I
Yeah, that
don't
is-
know to what extent yet.
Now, that, behind that was the restaurant they had in the building. If this is the, north end of it,
The south end.
south end,
Yeah, the south over by, if you're inside the building, it's by like the shade.
the way this thing's up, I don't remember what direction it's going. I'm looking at this. It's on the left view. That door that you see right there was the one that went to the restaurant that they had. It's kind of a snack bar restaurant type thing.
Yes.
And with, I thought I saw a thing that said, you know, put a bank there. Yeah, and the one above it shows the bank. The bank right now is somewhere down in the middle of the store with no access to the outside.
Correct.
Oh, the signage, you mean?
Yeah. That's all they're doing to the exterior of it, and I don't see a problem with what they're doing. That's just my 2 cents.
So there, with the, on the right side of the building, the bottom diagram, that door is what they're changing, I believe.
Yeah. But what is being reviewed is the door location. It's on this side. Even further over.
Yeah, that's,
That is the south side of the building.
yeah,
Yes.
This door here.
Yes. And they are changing their signage, but that's not something that would be reviewed in an architectural review.
That, there was something I saw about the bank building too, or changing maybe, but in the interior maybe it wouldn't, 'cause they don't have a drive-through bank right now, do they?
no.
No.
But there's
inside-
drive-through area there
Yeah,
that's
right.
been there since the beginning of the
Right.
building.
And, is this where they're going to have for pickup, for people calling orders?
I'm not sure what the entry and exit door is going to, what its main purpose is going to be be honest. Perhaps it's a quicker entry to the pharmacy for people that wanna walk in, I'm not sure, but,
Well, they've got curbside pickup right here by the door, so it'll make it easier for them to get out.
Well, they
Or
have.
curbside, I know they have a small door down here.
And then, right now, that's where the people line up. If
Okay.
they have curbside pickup, that's where they pick up, that's where they pick it up at, on the right-hand side. If you're looking at the Giant Eagle, it's on the right-hand side.
So right where the door.
Yeah, where the doors used to be, where the doors are not on the right-hand side, you don't get, so beyond that, to the right
Still,
hand.
if
to the
this
right
is
hand.
all they're doing, I don't have a particular problem because it's not enough to force any plants or anything.
I don't think, no, in my opinion.
That's just
is-
my feeling.
No, we're not talking about anything, they're not changing the footprint, they're not changing really anything except for the doors, a little bit of minor facade, but that's me. Anybody have any, questions or concerns what we're looking at? So Harley, since Johnny was not here, she will be our, questionee. Anybody has any questions or concerns?
So it looks like they're putting like an awning over it,
mhm.
is that, and that'll make the required.
Yes.
Anybody else? I mean, the doors are, I agree with, I echo what Darryl said. I mean, it's a minor, to me, it's a minor revision. John, any concerns?
If the only change, if there's no other changes to the platform or the way it is now, and the only thing is they're adding that door, everything else in the inside, it really doesn't have anything to do with this
So we don't forget
committee,
about it
right?
right now.
No, no.
So, I don't have any other questions on it then.
Okay, since nobody had any questions or concerns, regarding this, then I'll, entertain a motion for approval of the architectural plans for Giant Eagle at 1201 Menor Avenue as submitted by them on, let's see here, date on this date is for case 2020-02 ZC, architectural review 2.
So moved.
I'll second.
Bailey made a motion to approve as submitted. Amy seconded it. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
And Amy,
Yes.
John,
Yes,
Daryl,
Yes,
Bailey,
Yes.
and Chairman.
Yes. Okay. We have no new business. Old business. This is definitely old business. Sign rewrite. Last time, we,
don't we have some, just curiosity,
yeah,
don't we have some, I'm looking for my copy of the agenda. I thought we had a extension of the,
we'll talk about that later. With no new business,
yeah,
we're up to old business right now.
well, I thought there was a case that we held over to this month from last month because of whatever reason. Or did we approve it? I don't.
I think it was the case we had last time, we approved and we gave it to the,
Trustees already?
trustees already, yeah, we did
Okay.
that last time.
Never mind.
That's no problem. So, we're on the old business rewrite sign section. Last time we were here, we went through section by section, page by page, what the commission had some, concerns with. What I'd like to do today is, kind of, I know, and we had a good discussion on banners, lights, inflatable, stuff like that, so maybe we can, go and maybe kind of like agree or not agree to what we want to see and maybe a note at light, no pun intended, and, see where we go. I think some of the, mathematical equations that are on the latter part of it, we might want to wait till another day, or maybe another way of how to get the size we want. But I think what I'm looking at for tonight maybe is just a general discussion on what we'll accept, or what we'd like to see or not see, in this. So, I'm throwing it off to you folks to talk about.
So if I remember from the last meeting, when we're talking about the inflatable objects, lights, stuff like that,
Yep.
everybody was kinda okay with them as long as it didn't interfere with people driving and as long as it wasn't there forever, right?
Correct.
Is there a way to just scope it for that?
Mm-hmm. So, we're looking at section,
2808,
2808.
actually, 2808B.
Okay, so specifically, the items that we are okay with and we are not regulating were, from my understanding, balloons and the lights, the strings of lights. Was that,
I think that's where we're heading
We're
toward.
kind of stumped on what to do with inflatable objects, right? I don't know that we decided.
Can we, yeah, because we were talking about, as we were going through the section by section or page by page, I know we got into a discussion on the inflatable, like on page, I don't know, on section, 2808E. and C and E, it was like general requirements and prohibitations of, for all signs. And it said like display of balloons, banners, pennants, ribbons, streamers, inflatable objects, or string of lights shall be prohibited. And that's when we started having that discussion on whether we want to not exclude those type of signs or whatever. And also where they would be allowed to be, I guess one thing is where would they be allowed to be, displayed, you know, either a storefront or if they're like on a pole or something. You know, something like that, so there we go. So,
She's upset.
Daryl gets his, signs. If anybody wants to talk about it and what we want or not want,
There's everything right
I'm
there.
open. I guess Harley, I guess I have the question is, I know Rich started this before he retired.
Mm-hmm.
What was his, I guess, reasoning for prohibiting balloons, the banners, the inflatable objects? And maybe, Jason, you can help me with this. What was the reason for prohibiting these types of signs or whatever? Can you try and give me an answer? I'm just asking.
The prohibition of these types of signs is pre-existing in our zoning resolution, and I believe that it was introduced into the zoning resolution to deter car dealerships from doing those really flashy banner things and lights all attached to all of their poles as you go around the dealership. I believe that was the intent behind creating the prohibition. But within it, we are limiting a lot of other types of signage, and decor and lighting that we otherwise would like to encourage.
Okay.
My question is, even if a car dealership does that, if they do it to promote something for a weekend or we just don't want to do that for that.
And the other thing too is that, you know, you have the setbacks of, you know, we have, you know, most of our zoning regulations, okay? You know, use the setback from the right of way, whatever, to allow, you know, things, you know, we tell people to keep that, we have a setback to keep, you know, for health and safety of traveling public or the walking public. You know, maybe, you know, if it's a banner or it's a balloon thing and it's back, so it's not affecting traffic. Yeah, they want it to be attention-wise. Okay, that's what the object of that is. But if it's far enough back away from the roadway, not blocking the driver from actually driving the vehicle or a pedestrian walking down the sidewalk, you know, whatever. I mean, to me, there is, you see banners and you see, like I said, when I made this statement last meeting, it was during the fair, we had the fair and they had the inflatable cow there. And so if you tell somebody can't have any inflatable objects on your property as a sign prohibit, you can't let the fair do that.
Well, if we say it has to be so far back, then people can't put balloons on the mailbox when they're in the park.
I'm just,
Yeah, so that's why, I don't know if it makes sense to have for businesses this, for residential, I don't know.
Daryl?
I'm just looking at something else that's over here, but I'll come back to that.
Okay. Anybody else have any, I mean, I guess the big thing is, do we want, well, I guess the big question is yes or no, I guess would be is, do we have does the board itself want to prohibit these type of signs? Now, we want to say yes or no, is if it's no, okay, then what are we gonna allow? If we say yes, we want to prohibit it, oh, that's okay too. It's just personal preference.
And like, just a little background on this.
Go ahead, Darrell.
These prohibited signs have been there for years. When I first started working at the planning commission, I remember reading this in the township resolution. And they've added a couple to this over time as new things came up. Like the balloon signs that move, they didn't have those back in the sixties,
Right.
but they do now. One problem I have with flags is that, you say flags in general, that knocks out the use of the American flag and the state flag. There's some flags I wouldn't want to see flying, aka a swastika. And there's a couple others I wouldn't want to see flying, but I wouldn't want to take people's political rights away from them at the same time.
Correct.
I always like
This-
to look
that's
at,
not-
oh, excuse me, I thought you were finished.
And that's all right, go ahead.
What encourages business is advertising sometimes, and you hate to squash that incentive to advertise and bring business into the area. I know that one of the things that was brought up was that tax place down here where there's Uncle Sam there. Kind of hard, it sort of goes along with the flags in a sense, but, some of these that are really, I mean, people will drive and look at them and it might distract them a little bit, but I don't know that there's enough accidents and things that have been caused by that to say it's a safety issue. If it's not, like you said, close to the street, I know that when you start talking about signage and a message that they're getting across, then you're interfering with their rights to free speech too. They've been that around a lot. But if it's not hurting anybody physically or causing a possibility of accident or something of that nature, then I would say that I would be very slow to restrict anything, except there's one thing that we didn't mention, and that's the time. So, some of these signs, like you said, a mailbox flag or balloons on a mailbox, usually it's a one-day thing. We did talk about the garage sales, and I think there was a limit on how many days we thought about that too. And so you're saying that, well, you could put a sign up, but it could only last for a few days. We could allow some of those signs for a few days, maybe if the zoning inspector would look at it and make sure it was not a safety issue. Then, I'm not so sure that we should be limiting too many of those things like that, so. And then I know we talked a little bit about these inflatable bounce buildings and things like that. And they do put signs up sometimes for those too, because it's a rental agency that goes around and does that now. And I'm not so sure that would come under the signage thing. It's a one-day rental thing usually. But those can be a safety problem at times. Depending on whether they're setting it up and whether it's blocking view or something of that nature. So I'm not sure that people don't have to get a permit to have a bouncing house in their yard, do they?
No.
So you wouldn't even know it anyway, so.
The last part,
You know if it was like permanently blocking,
Yeah,
if it was right on the corner of a lot of.
Right.
You could figure out what you would hear about it.
I just saw an inflatable, 7 inflatables for Halloween, a few doors down from me on Ridgecrest. And to be honest with you, it's not distractive or anything, it's just kinda neat. And if you took this to heart, if they couldn't have it within 20 feet of the right-of-way, there wouldn't be much room left to put these things up. Same thing with Christmas decorations. You wouldn't have much room to put up the decoration you want, the deer that moves and these kinds of things. Those are the kinds of things that I have a little problem with. Otherwise, I don't have any problem with it. And mostly in the residential area. Most of the other commercial and that normally would have more room. But some of our older areas, that's not necessarily true.
That's true, especially on Miller Avenue,
Uh-huh.
that tax,
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
had
yeah.
that balloon.
Yeah.
But it's been there, I mean, I haven't seen, a great number of accidents in that location between January first and April 15th. Or you know what I mean, during the tax season.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, because of it, because of that being there. And I agree with you about the Christmas lights. Well, the road right away, let's say, the road right away generally is anywhere from 20 to 30 feet from the center line.
Yeah,
So-
which might be the solid pavement, but not necessarily.
True, but, you know, going with that,
But you say the center pavement, you measure it, and it's the same for
so
everybody.
where center line is, yeah, so you go back. So, as long as the, sign and the decorations, the holiday decorations, whatever holiday you wanna pick. Cause I've seen it for Easter, I've seen it for Thanksgiving, you know, but holiday decorations, not in the road right away,
Yeah.
outside the road right away. I think in residential areas is fine. I think I'm talking about my opinion now. For businesses, as long as it's not in the road right away and it doesn't hamper pedestrians walking on the sidewalk, I don't see a problem with these type of things. I think the only thing we probably wanna talk about, if at all, would be size. What would be like the maximum size, I mean, of allowing something? I mean, I'm just throwing it out here, cause if you,
Go
you know,
ahead.
I'm just thinking that, you know, somebody could be on and like a real big banner, and I'm just wondering if, you know, allowing them to have it, don't prohibit it, but make it a reasonable size, if you follow my drift. Cause what to me may be non-intrusive, maybe somebody else right there would think it's intrusive, you know, too big. I'm just, you know, flags, you know, 3 by 5. I mean, I'm just throwing something out, Christmas lights. I mean, we got the, you know, I don't know, I have a couple near my subdivision, at Clark Griswold, it's beautiful,
Yeah.
really nice. Amy, right near where Amy lives. It's really nice, they're nice, they are nice. But anyway, I don't have a problem, I don't think we should prohibit these types of displays, as long as they're out of the right of way. Like I said before, I'm just wondering if we should have like a height requirement or a size requirement. I'm just throwing it out to you folks for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, if I may make a suggestion, in section 2811, signs on properties which are not zoned, or being used for residential purposes. So that's 28.11A5, grand opening special event signs. Temporary banners or posters constructed of paper may be displayed on the front building or wall, etc. There are, there's a square footage maximum, there are, maximum number of days that they may be used. And so I'm thinking with the zoning commission's thought process on limiting days and size, we might be able to move these types of signage, what we're looking at permitting, into this for special event signs, at least in our commercial districts. And then we can address the inflatable type signage for residential back over here and just say that they have to stay outside of the right of way, and maybe copy actually, signage in the residential district can be, we might already have things like banners in the residential district covered as far as signage.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a situation on my street every 4th of July, a few days prior to it, some lady with her cards on there that does real estate plugs a flag around everybody's mailbox. I think it's pretty neat that some of them will take the flags down, but mine stays there till it falls down.
Understand.
But then the other aspect, looking at some of these inflatables, they get up to 15 feet tall.
Yes.
I've seen one there at the house a few doors down, and that, one of those inflatables has gotta be about 15 feet high. But it's set back, it's not out towards the road and anything like that.
So it doesn't affect the.
It's not affecting anybody's sight line. The only thing it affects is the people's sight line out of the house,
Right.
which that's what they wanna do, that's
So
all.
now, I think the biggest thing, I mean, residential wise, as long as it's not in the road right of way,
Yeah,
Yeah, and as long as it's not
and
there forever.
that or blocking, you know, as long as it's not in the road right of way, that way somebody can go out of a driveway and be able to see oncoming traffic, so it
Yeah.
doesn't make a hazard out of it. I think the commercial district, I think is where we may have some issues.
yeah.
And when Hartley's trying to say to us, maybe we could throw the residential in that area. And, you know, I mean, the businesses in that special event thing. I mean, that might be, like, we have one set of, I guess, more freely regulations for residential areas. And businesses maybe go into that, area where, what she call, or they call, 2811 A, 1 through 5, 1 through 6, you know, they have listed there for that. That may be the way to go. Now, you know, I guess the question I have is, would we wanna regulate, I guess, size in commercial districts, areas? Or let it go? I'm just tossing it out.
And the setbacks as well, where there was a concern about the setbacks of 20 feet being too regulatory in residential districts. Now that they're separated, we can have actual setback requirements for our commercial districts and leave the residential district as long as it's outside of the right of way and not
Yeah.
blocking line of sight.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't have a problem with what you have in the commercial, it's the residential that gets penalized.
Correct.
Because if they go 20 feet back on me, I've only got another, it's 60 feet back to the house, so I have about 35 feet beyond it or so.
And the residential, I think we can be a little bit more giving because the buildings and the houses are set back a lot from the edge of the roadway. As long as they don't interfere with, you know, as long as they're not in the road right away, I don't think there's a big problem.
One of the problems that I remember bringing up years ago was tenants. And, trying to think of maybe it was Bob Evans Chevrolet on the corner where, Giant Eagle is right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they run tenants all the time. And it, you know, it was there, and some of the trustees felt that was very distracting. It's very unsightly, but they couldn't do anything about unsightly, but if it's distracted, they could. And that's how that got in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm even, my opinion is if a car dealership has that to run a special for a week, I don't care. If they do it forever, then I think it's a
Yeah,
problem.
it becomes an eyesore.
Yeah.
Not that we can
Well, the only thing is,
do
you
much
know,
of an eyesore, but,
well, I'll tell you what, if you look at 2811, you know, and, there's grand opening, special event signs and marquee signs.
Yeah.
That maybe we can flip that, the commercials, you know,
Yeah.
if you wanna call it that, in this, like this 2811, like Harley suggested, would be for the commercial, and let the residential we're talking about right now. Residential in there, and make the commercial have a little bit of a more restriction because of the fact is they're more closer to the roadway.
yeah, and they're gonna have
A little
faster
bigger.
moving traffic and be
Yeah.
more distraction,
What is
potential for it anyways.
correct, and also the fact is that, they're probably, they have the opportunity, obviously, to do a little bit bigger banner or whatever the case may be. So, are we looking at telling Harley, asking staff to, of going to section 2808 and make that section 2808 more geared to residential concerns or regulations, you know, I mean, for signs. And then for the commercial signing and restriction, you wanna call it that, put that in 2811. Because 2011 is for signs on property which are not zoned for or being used for residential purposes.
And that would catch your industrial too.
Yeah, so.
I'd say that we need to catch the industrial as well as the commercial.
Yeah, and that would be the one that, so, what does the board think about? Harley, does that sound like what you were thinking about going for?
Yeah, just to reiterate, what I have is a revision of section 2808E to state essentially that inflatable objects, including holiday decor, shall not be located within the road right-of-way. And that will be applicable across the board, but mostly appropriate in our residential districts because inflatables will be further regulated in section 2811A5, where I will be inserting the listed otherwise prohibited signs that would be permitted as special event signs, subject to the limitations in here as far as number of days and sizes.
Mm-hmm.
And I will also be inserting language regarding the setbacks of inflatables. I don't have that setback yet. We can use the 20 feet from the road right-of-way as it's written in 2808E. We could change that. I also have a height limitation. The inflatable shall not exceed, and I wrote in 10 feet, and the reason why I did that was because I looked up that inflatable tube man sign, and he comes in 3 sizes, 6, 10, and 20. And my personal opinion was 20 feet might be unreasonable, 10 feet's more reasonable, but that's entirely up to the board, or the commission, rather. And that is what I have so far, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Just want
and,
to make sure that's all correct.
now if you look, go Harley, if we, or the board wants to take a look at, I know we're jumping around here, but if we go to 2811, and what Harley's talking about was 2811.5, you know, grand opening, special event sign, grand marquee signs. If you go to 2811A1, that's where we get into the calculations of signs that is in, it's toward the end of this, thing. And I'm wondering if that's something we may wanna tackle later, because, Daryl, you and I talked,
Yeah, I had to talk with Harley, and the more I talked to her, the more confused it became in how this thing works. And I have a good sense of the fact that she's had problems, because I don't think she was given the proper definitions and how to work with this thing. I see places where definitions need to go in. In other words, you use a definition, but you don't use a short version of it. And down towards the end, you're using short version, but you converted and didn't tell anybody what you were doing. One is the information on electronic signs. Goes to the electronic message board, all down through there, and you get the last 2 or 3 paragraphs. It's EMB. What's an EMB? At least somewhere, one of those electronic message boards has to have that in parentheses after it, so people will know that that is what that means. So you get your tie back or tie ahead.
or in definitions, they have in definitions at the beginning of this, they have, they have electronic message boards, and that can be run through the EMB. Like that, run through.
But one of the,
Go ahead.
or I'm looking at here, I just wrote this thing out, I tried to catch up with things before my written part was here.
I think at one time we prohibited those electronic message boards.
Yeah, but then everybody got crying for it, so we,
Right. So churches started,
Went ahead
schools
with it.
started, now you're gonna tell them no.
Mhm.
they gotta be coming to here very
Oh,
soon.
I had a question on your, and I agree pretty much with what you said, I think, but, when you have, like where the shopping center is and,
Starting with
car.
20, I'm sorry,
the car lots there, what is the setback on Route 20? And and the inflatables, I can see those compressors sometimes quit and they fall over. So it could be in the road, or it could be on somebody else's property, or could cause some problems there. But on there, what is the setback on, like a shopping center or, where the car lots are?
In that, let me pull that up. That zoning district is B3, and I believe this, I don't wanna misquote and confuse people, so. Uh, 50 feet
Fif-
from the right of way.
50 feet?
Yeah, it isn't, and they lost a lot of their setback when they widened
Right,
Menor
yeah.
Avenue. But that is the requirement for buildings is a 50-foot setback.
And I remember when we did Subaru at one time there, and they had some landscaping in the front, and then first thing you know, the cars are right next to the street again, and so are a couple of those other ones. I don't know if that's any more dangerous than these inflatable things would be, with the, but I wasn't sure whether they're violating a rule or anything like that, whether they just do it anyway, but, the cars sometimes seem to be off close to the road.
Yeah, I don't, actually, before I
Now signage, I don't know that I really see signage, what about these new, developments when they put signage on a corner, naming that area? Are those a permit, or are they in our rules?
Yes, the subdivision
Subdivision
signs,
signs?
so like Calais
Right,
Farms,
right.
yes, those are in our,
So you approve all of those, according to the rules and regulations that we have, okay.
yes.
I
That-
think the way you kind of divide that off and put it into the, commercial and then separate it from the residential, I don't see that would be much of a problem. I don't know if I'd wanna try to do the wording that you said, but, it seems like moving them separate like that, because in most cases, residential is not gonna be very long, except for Christmas time when people put a lot of things on, but everybody drives slow, and the decorations themselves could be dangerous. I mean, if you go to Neela Park and drive, everybody's moving 2 feet a minute or something like that,
Okay.
This electronic message boards, the EMB, it's used starting in the beginning of section 2813, and they don't have it in A, but they have it in B. C, they don't have it, but D. E, they don't. F, they do. G, they don't. H, I, J, and then down at the bottom there in M, suddenly we're not using that, it's EMB twice. Now, unless there's something up there that tells you what that switch is, you're gonna lose track of what's there. There's some minor word changes, not, additions of things. It's-
So to correct that, we can add the parentheses, EMBs,
Yeah.
in the very first paragraph under 2813, it says
Yeah.
electronic message boards, EMB, are only permitted in non-residential.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as you get it in there right at the beginning, when you get to the end, you know what EMD is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can do it in every one of them, or you can do it just one. The clean way, you probably do it just one. Otherwise, you're getting repetitive.
And I'm sorry to circle back, but I did want to ask the commission, 2808D, just above E, this section that we're revising, says no sign shall employ or any parts or elements which rotate, revolve, oscillate, or otherwise make use of motion. If we're doing that, then the inflatable objects, streamers, things like that, that are
That
there to
depends.
attract the eye using motion, we'll
Yeah.
need to revise this language as well. You- Do we want to strike it?
If
How
you're
would that
planning
be
allowing
different
some
from
of
the
these things, I would.
electronic message board? If you have a rotating light that's flashing around, what would do?
It says there is a, subsections C and D shall not apply to any sign performing a public service function, including time, temperature, oh wait, hold on, with the exception, so in C, with the exception of electronic message displays or boards as set forth in this section, any illuminated sign or lighting device shall employ a light emitting a beam of constant intensity, and no sign shall be illuminated by or contain flashing, intermittent, rotating, or moving light or lights. So, electronic message boards are the exception to these rules as it relates to flashing or moving lights in order to create a message. So, 2808C omits electronic message boards from this regulation and prohibition.
No, the,
But-
We're still saying we want, right, we want to allow movable items.
Yes, so C is only talking about lighting, so they can't use like strobe lights or
Oh,
flashing lights or anything like that, which I
Yeah.
think, I personally think that that is a safety issue, but that's up to the commission. But D is what discusses, any parts or elements which rotate, revolve, oscillate, or otherwise make use of motion or sound to attract attention. So within this subsection, we're also, prohibiting, sound from being used to attract attention, which,
to,
Right.
excuse me, sorry. On D, as we're on talking about D, as far as motion, trying to attract attention in motion, I don't have a problem with that in the residential area. I do, though, have a problem with sound. I mean, just think about it for a minute. In a residential area, you got something making a sound all the, I mean, that might be a problem. So I don't have, my personal opinion is, I don't have I think, to me, it'd just be our sound to attract attention. I mean, I'd rather, I keep somehow, some way to put sound as a prohibited, attention getter, but motion, I think
Yeah.
is fine. In the we're talking about residential.
You're gonna have enough sounds with fire engines and EMTs and stuff like that, which people listen for. And usually in this area, they'll pull over. I know areas where they don't, but, in this area, everybody seems to respect
That
that.
poor ice cream truck can't play that music anymore?
Well, I'm not sure that's a problem.
That's
I
the way
hear
that's
'em
worded,
coming.
it could be.
It could be.
I mean, I think, Harley, I'd like to keep this,
no, this is all zoning districts is what this would be, because it's located in 2808, it's all districts. It's only when it's singled out.
This is all districts, not just residential.
Yeah, so,
I still think it's the same, I still agree that we probably want some sort of.
Well, I could see this applying to
prohibitions or-
electronic message boards.
So I could rewrite it to read, no sign shall employ sound to attract attention. And then subsection C and D shall not apply to any sign performing a public service function, including public service announcements.
Yeah.
No
Is
sign
is everybody
shall-
okay with that?
Yeah.
At least until we look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, that, I mean, because once you said that, Harley, kind of sounds just kind of like didn't go good with me.
Okay.
Now, da, 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 da. If you go to 2809, Harley, subsection A, I had, series of questions. I know, to me, in 2809A2, we should just say, a sign must not be within the road right of way, period. You know, it says typically the road right of way is 30 feet, and from the start, and with the exceptions. So just
Yeah.
take it, road right of way, period, boom.
Yeah, because there's some places along Route 20 that go 120 feet
Yeah, so,
in,
you don't wanna do that.
and you got other areas in the residential, the right-of-way is 25 feet altogether.
Right, so, I'd rather just go right with the road right of way, period, and let it go, so that we don't want a sign in the road right of way. We can do that on number 2. That would cut that sentence down, that little section there. And then, my other question is, garage sales. 24 hours prior to and 2 hours after the sale ends. I don't know, is that what you do right now? Is that what the garage sales regulations are right now?
We honestly do not regulate them at all. I've never received a complaint about garage sale signs.
Okay,
So,
I mean, this is what it is right now, right? 24 hours prior to and 2 hours after it's over?
no, we don't regulate them at all, and I've never received a complaint. So I'm honestly not sure the intent behind placing it in as a regulation when we don't already have issues with it. Maybe it's preemptive, just in case we do at some point in the future.
But if we, you're basically saying that if we do have a problem, we can address that later. So if you're looking at number 6 then, folks, 2809A6, Harley, could we just stop it at, open house, right after it said, for selling of a property, period, because after that, the rest of it's for garage sales. You know what I mean? Says, open houses for properties which are currently for sale, period. And then they have nor for signs advertising garage sale for property. Let's leave the garage sales out and see what happens. Am the commission okay with that?
Okay, during the open house hours for properties which are currently for sale. And then strike the remainder. Is
Yeah,
that, so after, after the verbiage, under 2809A6, it would be, there will be no permit required for temporary signs advertising the property upon which they are placed for sale, nor for signs advertising an open house during the open house hours for properties which are currently for sale, and then strike the remainder. Strike thereafter, for no advertising.
Wait a
garage
minute,
sale.
one more thing.
Oh,
Why
wait.
don't we- You know what, why don't we say nor for signs advertising garage sale on the property, period. So what we're doing is, we're saying, you can put signs up there that would be, for, selling the home, open house on the home, or garage sales. All I'm saying is not prohibiting it, but not regulating, it can only be up there and there. I mean, you know what I mean?
Okay, so I'm sorry for reading it again. I just want to make sure I'm clear when I'm rewriting. There will be no permit required for temporary signs advertising the property upon which they are placed for sale, nor for signs advertising an open house during the open house hours for properties which are currently for sale, nor for signs advertising a garage sale on the property upon which they are placed, and strike the remainder thereafter.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And that was number 6?
Yeah, number 6, yes.
Yeah, 'cause I've got a little problem with this one too. What's the difference between a dedicated roadway and an arterial dedicated?
Where we at, Carol?
That's in 6.
I was in 6?
First sentence. There in 2810,
Oh,
Oh,
we're not
6.
10 yet. We're in,
Oh, okay.
we're in '09.
then I got the wrong one. Sorry about that.
No problem. Yeah, I think that's fine. If the commission's okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, it still says, you can only have it up, it still says it's permitted while the events, or while it's happening, right? It's somewhere in there, it's permitted while the event's going on, it just doesn't say you have to have it down within 2 hours. So it still doesn't give permission to leave it there forever.
And there's still an additional problem with this. So, I'm not there yet.
yeah, I
In
think we'll
2010,
have to
kinda
add it
up here.
for garage sales, but it does have it in there for the open houses, so upon which they are placed during, I'm just gonna put during the sale for now. Okay. All right, so,
Oh, boy.
and Jason provided a revision and I should have forwarded this email to you all. I apologize for not doing that. 28.07B. During the previous meeting, the commission had asked for revised language for this subsection, and Jason provided the following, which I will have in the next set of revisions.
Okay.
But I just want to make sure it sounds right before I put it in there. The regulations and provisions contained in this section 28 are applicable and in force in all zoning districts within the unincorporated territory of Painesville Township for the purpose of regulating signage, which is mounted and displayed on any exterior surface of properties located within the jurisdiction of Painesville Township. Okay.
Okay.
No, you're fine.
You talking about what I emailed to you?
Yes.
I changed that as we were sitting there.
Did you?
I think there's a better way to say it.
Okay.
Cause I think that applies in all zoning districts is unneeded. We kinda specify throughout, whether we're talking about all of them, whether we're talking about residential, whether we're talking about commercial. I think the biggest thing is just saying that it only applies to signs on the outside, essentially. So I wrote regulations and provisions contained in section 28 shall only apply to signage which is mounted and displayed on any exterior surface or outside area of property within the jurisdiction of the township. I think that conveys what we needed to convey.
Okay, will you
Or not?
email it to me, please?
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
Number 7, on this 2809A7, up to 3 additional temporary signs. What was the thought process of that?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, could you repeat?
A7, 2809A7.
Okay.
What was the reasoning for that? I mean, do we have a problem with that?
That's for the election signs, I believe. This is a way to address election sign pollution on front lawns without actually addressing election signs specifically because we don't have the authority to do so. So what we're doing is we're saying you can have these signs and then you can also have up to 3 temporary signs at one time. And because we're only permitting 3 at one time, if we've got a yard with 50 and there, some could be offensive and we're getting complaints, this gives us some authority to alleviate a potential, neighbor dispute.
Well, let's go back here for a minute. In our definitions of temporary sign, and beginning, and section 2806, a temporary sign, any sign intended to remain in use for a short period of time, which is not permanently installed. Wow, big. I understand that is, and I understand what we're looking at for. My short period of time and someone else's short period of time could be different. Jason, do we have for what we're talking about here in signing, wise, house for sale, like that house for sale on Riverside Drive right now, it's been up there for almost a year. We haven't sold the house right across from Riverside,
Yeah,
actually.
that's what you're talking about.
I looked at, my daughter looked at the price, it just says, anyway. Temporary signs should, we say temporary sign, Jason, should we, put on at least a time frame of what a temporary sign is? Or, you know what I mean, could we do a time frame and then we'll have to regulate, when to start, when they put it up, when they put it down? Or is it, or am I really reading into it too much?
So my thought on it is that if we place a time period on it, it makes it difficult to regulate.
Okay.
This way, people are able to put up signs that they want, and we have the authority to address dilapidated signs. So really, they can use their temporary signs as permanent signs. Based on this language, they can use them as permanent signs, up until they deteriorate, I suppose, which really, it honestly has not been an issue. The only issue that we have had
Okay.
is more recent with the current political state of everywhere, is when this has become an issue that it was determined should be, or we should at least try to regulate in some way.
Okay, I was throwing it out there, and that's a reasonable explanation, and I think a time frame would be sometime a little bit hard to regulate, you're correct.
If I
So-
understand right, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, time limits on political signs are verboten. You can't do that
You can't do so you couldn't say you can't put up a political sign.
beforehand and have to take
2
it.
months before the election.
Yeah.
But you can put an end on it, like it has to be taken down
Okay,
X amount of time.
that's a change from what I heard.
After,
Okay.
because before, a lot of the First Amendment case laws can't give you the rationale for what it is, but that is the current state of it.
Okay.
So you can't do before, but you can do after, a reasonable amount of time
Yeah.
after.
As I remember seeing political signs stay up all winter
Yeah.
and just deteriorate right there.
Well, I think a lot of jurisdictions just don't even touch them because
Mhm.
they don't want to end up in court.
Hmm.
Because
And then
eventually,
political flag.
eventually you probably will.
Try and tell somebody to put one down.
Yeah.
Let the kids take it down Halloween.
Yeah, yeah.
I understand.
That would be
Okay. Darryl, you had an issue or a question on 2810?
Yeah. It's about the use of some terms here, and I may be reading it wrong, I'm not sure. In the beginning of this thing, you're talking about in A1,
You're on 2810, correct?
2810, yeah,
Okay.
A1. You're talking about a public road right-of-way. As you go down through here, and you get down to, hold on a second, I had it. now.
6?
Yeah, 6. use the words, public right of way one time, and in the same sentence, I think you're using arterial. An arterial highway and public highway are the two of the same things. Arterial is a classification of highway. Same as a residential versus, in between, I can't remember all the terms.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about, Tim.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, to just, pick out a term of that nature as an arterial highway,
Or you can make it just, why don't we?
I just see public road, public highway or
why don't
public
we
roads.
Well, either go dedicated roadway.
Yeah,
Like if a dedicated roadway has,
I'm just concerned that there's not a consistency here,
okay,
and I think there should be.
okay, I understand that, and where you're going to, and if we could make it a dedicated, we can make it, no sign will be placed on a dedicated roadway within a public, no, why don't we just call it a dedicated roadway? That way it's a dedicated road, and so this regulations would be on a dedicated road that's dedicated to the township. Dedicated road.
That means once you go into these some of these allotments of private roads, you lose a lot of your ability to regulate things.
Correct, but if we're talking about, if we just say on a dedicated public road,
Hmm.
that should, I think that should take care of,
Yeah, because you have a dedicated private road.
because I think what they were trying, you're right, correct me, but it's a public road that we can regulate.
Yeah, that we can.
And the fact is that what they were trying to do here is, if say a subdivision has more than 300-foot frontage on a roadway, you can have another additional sign. That's what number 6 is saying. You can do another additional sign. So we'll just call it the same thing. Let's call it, excuse me, call it dedicated public roadway
Yeah.
throughout. So Harley, on that number 2810, let's call it, make it consistent throughout the whole section. They call it a dedicated public road.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, one comment though, in subdivisions such as, let me see, Calais Farms, for example, they have a private roadway. And I'm just speaking now on terminology throughout this entire section.
Okay.
And in the cases of subdivisions, we do not have the authority to regulate the distance, or maybe more accurately, we just don't concern ourselves with the distance from the roadway because it's not ours. But for the sake of, there's a word I'm looking for, uniformity throughout the entire section, is dedicated roadway the term that we want to use in all of the other areas within the section? If
Yeah. that would
some
probably be
other
more-
form is used, we'll use dedicated roadway?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, thank you.
Because technically, if it's found as a private road on the subdivision, it's dedicated as a private road. That doesn't mean later on down the road you can't dedicate it as a public road. Wintergreen Hills is an example of that I remember. And Birch over on the east side, where private roads have became public. So, and I know by subdivision regulations, we can regulate private roads to meet public standards. So if everyone wanted to switch over, at least at that point in time, they build it to public standards. And that gets away from the haggling of, well, who's gonna do this, who's gonna do that? And
Still have that problem.
the standards, you're gonna have that problem forever. But just give some kind of standards that that's done by. The problem of it is, a lot of private roads, they don't take care of the drainage and a lot of other things they should. And the roads do deteriorate,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when you get your problems.
Okay. Section 2811B as in boy is brand new section. think it's hardly, that, to me, it sounded pretty well self-explanatory, of the size, of looking at the size. Only thing it didn't do was set a number. How many signs you can have, or is it, in this section right here, signs exempt from zoning certificate is only gonna be, we don't care how many signs that would be in B?
Yeah, I think it says that. Wait, maximum size, number of signs, sorry, let me catch up.
Depending on what you have towards the back, size is calculated through some formula that right now is kind of nebulous. Looking for a term, but it's difficult, as I mentioned earlier
Yeah,
this evening for Harley. And then with my background in mathematics, I have a hard time with it. Because there's too many pieces missing.
well, you know, they say the maximum size is 32 square feet.
Yeah.
Whew.
That's a lot of space.
That's a lot, that's pretty nice
It's
size
a
sign.
4 by 8.
A 4 by 8.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
size of plywood.
Mm-hmm. So we just say the maximum size is 32 square feet, period. Minimum setback is, it's not a dedicated road yet, right?
On
It
what?
would, it would be, you know, in B, because the minimum setback from the road is 1 foot per square foot of each sign face. So you have, so you're saying, Rich is saying, I mean, it was, the writer of this was saying that if you have a sign that's 32 square feet, then the minimum, it could be, edge of the roadway is 32 feet. Okay, that seems reasonable. That's pretty easy. I don't think there's unless anybody has a problem with this new section B, Harley, I think was as presented, unless somebody else has a problem with it.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, I'm sorry, I thought you had initially said maximum size up to 32 square feet, period, and then redact, or just remove the rest of that.
Yeah, all of just, instead of going, calculated
Calculated.
that, just make it a maximum size 32 square feet.
Okay, and similar for the remainder?
Yes.
2 and 3?
Yes,
Okay.
if that's to the commission's pleasure. I think it makes it easier.
Closer.
It definitely makes it easier.
Yeah.
It's a piece of plywood. You wanna make it smaller or bigger, but you can't have any bigger than that.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, if you want to be closer to the road, make it smaller. Okay.
Okay?
Oh, and then, so
Go ahead.
what's interesting is temporary signs expressing non-commercial messages, including political signs. Maximum number of such signs on a single property at any one time is 3. No, I guess never mind. That just seems gray to me. Jason, can we do that?
Nope, probably not.
Right.
Do what, maximum of 3 political signs?
Yeah.
And give it a shot. No, I can't promise you.
No. Oh, wait. This sign exemption from the zoning certificate is only for properties that are being for sale, rent, or lease, under construction, or non-commercial message, including a political sign, there it is, right there. I missed it. Wow. 32-foot political sign.
I've seen some down there, out on the road, just come pretty close to that.
Yes.
I've seen our trustees.
There's one right now on 84 down near, the
There was 2 of them.
ice cream stand.
Yeah, there was 2 of them, one for each candidate. They were that big. I mean, I was looking, every time I go out of my subdivision, I saw both of them.
Yeah.
It was amusing. First one went up, and the next, about a couple days later, the next one went up, and it was like, it was a rival. That means we're saying that political sign can be up to 32 square feet. If we're okay with that,
Well, so it also says no more than 3 on a piece of, on a property?
There might be 6 different seats that are open,
And you can still only have 3 signs?
and so why couldn't you put signs up for each of the positions if you had a different person for each one? I just bring it up because I think it's, you're barking up a tree that you probably should stay away from. but-
Well, I mean, you get off, Route 2, Fairport Nursery Road, that lot right there, and it's probably 30 by any given
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
nobody ever asked for permission to put any of them up, so.
Yeah, and and exactly, I completely agree with you. If we have commissioners running, trustees running, all of these other different, state, federal levels, and we're telling people, well, you can only pick 3 that you're going to advertise your support of.
I think that's limiting your right to political expression. I think that's what they call it.
I just don't think it's enforceable.
Yeah.
Probably in our
You're
state,
trespassing on that.
Yeah.
If you're not
That's-
careful.
If I were you, I'd look on the other side of the street.
Especially because in certain circumstances, there can be people that get very passionate about something that's happening, and they will come to our zoning resolution and say, it's written in there, you do something about this, because I'm not okay with it. And then we have to fight a fight that we're not sure we can win because we put this in here. Which Jason always really enjoys.
Makes you money.
so what we're saying is you can have 3 4x8 signs on your property. What
right
we're
now,
saying.
We,
The best I could say on that is if we do that and we enforce that, and say somebody has 5 and we bring a zoning violation against them, that's gonna be a long and expensive fight.
yeah, and let's hope that our trustees aren't the ones that are on their lawn.
I mean, it's possible the court could say that that's a reasonable regulation based on aesthetics and what have you, but it definitely would be an uphill battle for us to justify enforcing.
Can I ask the question? Do we need, okay. We're allowing temporary signs in section 2808. Do we actually need 3? Can we strike 3 out, Jason? In the so can we strike out 2811B3? Totally take it out. Just have 1 and 2. Under temporary signs for signs exempt from zoning certificate. Just take it out.
Could I
I don't
also
have that language.
suggest striking number 3 altogether?
I think that's,
Jason. So we're talking about signs exempt from the zoning certificate. Here's this one here. This is what I'm talking about. It's 3, 8, 32 square foot.
yeah, why do we need that? Why would we even specify that?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the thought process was in including it, to be honest. So I don't really know, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think you're right, I feel like,
Here,
especially if
hang
it
on just
says
for a second.
3.
I'll get right back to you.
Next door, and it's a candidate that somebody doesn't like, and then have to think about it.
Mm-hmm. Or if it's verbiage they don't like.
Yeah.
I would also suggest putting a maximum number of these 32 square foot signs. Because we have a maximum number of 3 here. That makes me feel like, is the maximum size of 32 square feet, is that the total square footage for all temporary signs of this nature, advertising for sale, rent, or under construction? Do we permit however many you can fit up to 32 square feet, or do we want to permit 1 and you 32 square feet is the maximum you can go for size.
Right now, we're saying it's both, right?
Well, right now, we don't really say one way or another what we mean.
If there's 3 8x10s, or 4x8s rather, permitted, then the total of all of the other signs would not be able to go above that, is that what we're saying?
Basically, what I think makes sense is permitting a maximum of 32 square feet for all temporary signage as described here. Because sometimes people will have one closer to the roadway and then one on the unit if it's like a strip mall or if there's multiple units. So I can see the need for more than one. But that's entirely up to the commission. My suggestion, staff's suggestion would be to permit any number of signs when the total square footage of all sign faces does not exceed 32 square feet. Something along that verbiage would be my recommendation, but I think we should have some sort of limit, whether it be total number of signage listed underneath this or a total of square footage for all signage.
In like 1 4x8 or 2 4x4, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So we could just say you can have, we could write the verbiage to basically where it says, total square footage of all of this type of signage cannot exceed 32 square feet. Time of the sale, whatever that appropriate verbiage, I'll work on it, but we can do it just based on signage as opposed to breaking it down and you can have a 32 square foot or you can have 2 of these or 3 of these or whatever. Or we can just say you can have 1 sign or 2 signs.
One sign that says all signs matter.
So that's something to consider. I can, write up 2 different ways to do that, and then the commission can just review it at that time.
Okay,
There's a lot of work to go
Yeah.
over, so.
all right.
And then I think we wanna probably take the political part out, the political
Mhm.
part out completely.
So,
I mean, we have to have some I mean, corporations have First Amendment rights too, so we have to have some kind of allowance for them to put up a political sign if they want to. If we take out that section 3, there's nowhere else in there that says you can put up a temporary sign on a commercial property.
so is it prohibited if we don't mention it, or is it just permitted?
I mean, I would read it as saying that you can't do it.
Oh,
Because
so-
here we're saying, in that section, we're saying these are the signs you're allowed to put on here, and here's the requirements for it. So anything that's not put on there, I'd say you can't do it, is
No.
how I would read it.
Do we just take them and just have one, like, that just says temporary signs are prohibited as long as you and don't describe them? Temporary signs are prohibited, sorry, temporary signs are allowed as long as the maximum size is 32 square feet. Minimum setback is 1 foot per square foot.
And just,
And then you just you don't specify
Take
whether
out
it's for
C.
sale or under construction, you
I
just
mean,
say.
in a commercial, it's commercial, it's less protected than, say, like a residential, your own home. But I just think we have to have some allowance for businesses to put up political signs as well.
okay, so,
Otherwise,
sorry.
we are gonna get sued and they're gonna.
Mhm.
Okay,
So can we, on a commercial property, can we limit them to 3 signs?
can we limit the size?
I mean, either way, whether you limit it by, I mean, yeah, you could definitely limit an overall size, no sign bigger than this. But whether you say we can have 3 signs, or you can have up to a total square footage of this, I mean, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, isn't it?
So you're saying, Jason, what we could do is, on the commercial now, commercial, gotta be out of the right of way. Can't be bothering, people, you know, walking. You say the maximum you can have political sign is, square foot is a political sign, temporary political sign, X amount of square feet. It's up to you to figure out how you wanna cut that cat, how you wanna skin that, how you wanna do it.
No, I'm just saying whether, either way you slice it, whether you say you can have 3 political signs, or you can have up to
X square foot,
a total square foot, I mean, either way, you're putting a limit on,
somebody's speech.
I don't see a huge difference between the two, to be honest with you. I mean, most political signs are the same uniform, and we all know.
Correct.
My personal thought is I would be hesitant to really put any limitations on political signs. I think you're just asking for trouble. I mean, 'cause I have a hard time seeing a court saying, well, pick which 4, or which 5, or which 3 candidates you wanna support, and you can't support any of it.
Okay, so,
It's a
but,
hard case to defend if I'm sitting in court.
okay, so if it's hard to defend, and if we don't put any kind of regulation in here, then we don't mention political signs in this section. You're telling me that right now, since it's not mentioned in here, they can't put it up. Correct? I'm just throwing it out here. Here's this.
I don't wanna mess this up. Do you have,
Here's the complete. There you go, sir.
Yeah, I mean, A introduces it saying, may have signs on their sites subject to the following requirements. So at least I would read this as, if it doesn't fall under one of these things, then you can't do it. That's the way I would read it.
Okay, so we have to mention political signs in this section. Or do we allow political signs and temporary signs, right?
Yes.
Under 2808. Am I correct?
But I believe, isn't that for residential properties though, Harley?
That's all
Okay.
properties, so 2808 is applicable to all zoning districts. Let me just double
Okay.
check.
So all this section is saying is you don't need a permit, basically?
Yes.
See, I would assume that number C, this section B, under 2811, is for developmental properties, you know, somebody, you know, advertising, like, subdivision right over here. You know, your big sign, your Arbor Point, whatever case may be, 35 lots, 100 lots, whatever case it is. That's what sign would be.
Okay, actually, 28.08 does not address temporary signs as far as,
Political.
really as to what is permissible within all districts. And I think that's because it was broken down into the 2809A for the residential. It talks about all the temporary signage there. And then further broken down into this new B. And that's probably why the new B exists, is because all of this used to be in 2808. And Rich took it and separated the two.
Okay.
So, temporary signs, so we could just strike A, B, and C from 2811B3 and just say temporary signs expressing non-commercial messages, including political signs, are exempt from zoning certificate requirements. And then not further regulate size. Well. Or we could say maximum size of up to whatever square feet for a sign face, and whatever's reasonable for a political sign, and then say, okay, you can have, we wouldn't be regulating the amount. We would be basically saying that the maximum square footage of a sign face is, I don't know, 5
Okay.
square feet or whatever, and then just leave it. I don't know.
And be exempt from zoning certificate.
Mhm.
We're saying that the maximum size for advertising a property for sale, rent, or lease, 32 square feet, okay? We're saying that if a property is under construction, then we're giving you a limit of the size you want it to be, 32 square feet. So, and a political sign, to me, we're, you know, we're like saying, hey, we're limiting to 32 square feet, I think, in a commercial area. I don't know, I mean, you know, we have the size for selling, and we have a size for advertising, we have a size, a maximum size for that. Why would I mean, a court's a court, maybe I'm saying, you would know better than I. Are we really going down a slippery slope if we do that? I mean, I'm saying, we're regulating the size of signs in these two different operations under this section. And then we go to political sign and say, oh, guess what? We're not gonna regulate any size at all, or number.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the difference is foremost in the First Amendment is political speech. And
Okay.
there's a lot of speech that falls under there, but the
Okay.
speech is political speech. Those other ones you mentioned are more commercial speech, for sale,
Okay,
developer.
gotcha.
Commercial speech is protected, but not nearly as much as
Okay.
First Amendment political speech.
If we
Okay.
don't limit the number of signs or the total volume of signs, but say it can't be bigger than this, is that acceptable?
I would feel better about that. But I'll be frank with you, I wouldn't feel great about taking any zoning violation to court that involve political signs.
So we should just leave it with nothing, just say,
And
Okay.
I'm not saying-
Political signs
I'm not saying that we
are
might come out on
zoning.
top on one, but
Okay.
it'd be an uphill battle.
All right, tell you what, and then on this number 3, because we battled this thing out for a while, could we just, Harley, on this one about political sign, maybe you and Jason can give us your thoughts, on what you'd be more comfortable with in this section, and just give us that for our next meeting. Okay?
Okay.
I think the rest of it, we can, if the board's not opposed, I think we can take Harley's, I think we gave her enough tonight for her to digest and revise for us. If nobody is objecting, we could go to the next old business, which would be amendment to section 7, non-conforming uses. Anybody has a problem with that? I'm hearing none. Okay, amendment to, we'll go to old business. We'll continue the sign rewrite, okay? And we'll go to amendments to section 7. Harley?
Mr. Chairman, unfortunately, I don't have anything new to add to this. I am aware of what the intention was behind adding this to the agenda, or Rich's intention, and that's to close a potential loophole that he saw. But I do not have anything further at this time.
Okay, we can table that and move, and then go to the next meeting. We have no closed public hearings, and if you don't have any of that. No items being held for public hearing. Zoning inspectors report.
The trustees passed, both of the zoning commission's, amendment recommendations. There was a small modification made to the language. We received the Lake County Planning Commission's comments after our public hearing. And the comment that the Planning Commission submitted was that they recommended we change the language in section 31, the prohibition of roosters, to be on parcels, all parcels 5 acres or less, as opposed to what we had written, all parcels less than 5 acres, because ORC grants us the authority to regulate agriculture and specifically animal husbandry on parcels 5 acres or less. So we made that revision, and that was the final approval from the trustees.
Okay. Anything else?
Oh, no, Mr. Chairman, I
All right.
apologize.
All right, any further business that would come before the commission? I have one item. Sorry about that, I know, I'm trying to do it. Next meeting is October 11th. I'm not special, I'm not the only thing here. I will not be here. I will be in Florida, and unfortunately, I will be not able to phone in. I've got something to do that night, with my son and wife, and my daughter and my son and my wife, and, won't be available at all. So my question to you is, if you folks, I'm available on the 4th, I'm available on the 18th. However, I'm not available on the 11th. Now, if you folks still want to have the meeting on the 11th, that's fine. Amy will do an admirable job of being chairman, trust me. Admirable job, probably better than me. However, if you, like I said, I'm just throwing it out to you when you want to have the next meeting. If you want to have, I'm just throwing it out, but my availability is definitely not going to be at 11th at all. So I'm throwing it out to you folks. If you want to keep it at 11th, next meeting 11th, fine with me. If you want to change it, if we're going to change it, I would rather change it to the 18th. Gives Harley more time to do the rewrite of the signing, if that's the pleasure of the board. I'm bringing it up and letting the board.
Either day works for me, I don't think.
Yeah, either day works for me, or we don't have an October meeting and we just go to November. It gives her even more time, unless there's something else that you need to review in October, but, and then the 18th is fine with me.
Yeah, the only thing, is if we get applications in
Yeah.
for site plan review or architectural review, then we would need to hold the meeting in October. But Township Hall is also closed that day, that's Columbus Day, so I'm not sure if,
It's closed the 11th,
Yes.
yes,
but you're open the 18th.
yes.
I'm fine with the 18th.
We have moved it on occasion from Columbus Day, but we've had also on Columbus Day sometimes too, so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't think that we should change meetings necessarily for one person's absence, but, not to say anything about any of us, but, you know, because we have that date set for the public also. But I can't, see any problem changing it to the 18th if anybody wants to do
The
that.
question is, will this building be available on that date?
Yes, yes, it will be.
Okay. Because if it wasn't, I'd say we move it to the 18th, but
Keep the 11th, that's fine with me.
I'm fine, everybody else? No problem with either.
Gonna move forward without Ted?
Yep. I mean, it doesn't matter because we have a quorum, so.
Yeah.
We'll miss his input, but we probably won't make any major decisions.
Okay, then the next meeting will be Monday, October 11th, 2021. Hearing no objections,
I have a
oh,
request to make.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Harley, will you put page numbers on these things?
Yes, yes, I will do
Please.
that, yes.
I get lost. in a moment.
So that motion was to go on the 11th,
11th.
Columbus Day, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Okay. No objections, adjourn the meeting at, the meeting is adjourned at 8:11. How about that?
All right.
Enjoy